IWC is without a doubt one of my favorite brands. They are, in my opinion, low profile but extremely beautiful watches. The brand has a skill of making the colors on their dials so rich and bright that I would dare to say is one of the brands that I have bought the most for myself. One of my favorite models is the Mark line. They were watches designed for war, specifically for soldiers on foot. IWC has a past, just like your girlfriend and your wife have. In World War I, IWC made watches for the Germans and then made watches for the English. And basically we all know that war is a constant business. We also know that war brings us many technological advancements, as was this watch. Obviously, the war was over 80 years ago, but we still have a remnant of those times, which is this watch. Now, just to make it clear, this is the Mark XX. It is a new model of the Mark line. Now, I'm going to leave here several of my videos of the Mark line, and as you can see, there are 3 or 4 videos of them because I love the model. I love the whole military and pilot vibe of IWC, that their watches literally have technology made for pilots. For example, the crystal is doubly secured in case there is a loss of pressure in the cabin so the crystal doesn't fly away, or that the movement has a cover of iron so it doesn't get magnetized with the instruments of the cabin of the airplane. Something that will surely never happen to me, but it's pretty cool to know that the watch has that technology. I feel that this watch has a similar vibe to the Speedmaster, because just as the Speedy was for the astronauts, this one was for pilots and soldiers. Now, one of the reasons I really like this model is because it is one of the more reasonably sized watches on IWC's catalog. And I say reasonable because they are among the few watches that are actually derived from a tool. I'm not saying their actual watches are a tool, because obviously these watches have evolved to become jewelry. The finishing is very fine. The polishing is very good to be considered a tool watch. But what I think is really cool is that it maintains that vibe of the watches that were worn by pilots. IWC as a brand has something that I really love. I can't explain it to you because I don't think even I understand it. Their designs are aggressive, the colors on their dials are spectacular. But I think what I like the most is everything that is behind this watch and how it has evolved through different eras. And I think this watch is one of the few that can say that have been around for many years, but that their essence remains intact. We can say the same, for example, for the Cartier Tank or the Omega Speedmaster, and I think that's it. Basically, what changes in this watch is the beating heart. Now, this watch is the second version of the Mark line that has an in-house caliber, just like the Spitfire that we also had in the channel, because the previous versions had a variation of a Celita movement. Although IWC beautifully decorates and regulates the movement and that it is an extraordinary movement, it is generic, if it makes sense. And I believe that IWC as a top brand cannot afford to have high prices without having in-house calibers. Now, their in-house caliber is a variation of the movements they used before, but that's another story. Let's say that if we put this watch in perspective, this is the great-great-great-grandson of a general who was in the war. Obviously, they bring all of the discipline and basically the trauma of combat, but he is a much more refined person with more world, more culture. And that is exactly what happened to this watch. It has all of its history, but it has evolved and it has become a really refined piece. Now it is so perfect that it is difficult to take it off the wrist. And since it arrived, the only reason I took it off was to change the strap, because to be honest, IWC straps are not the best, they're not very comfortable. But without a doubt, IWC is one of my favorite watch brands. But what do you think?